Hey everyone, Glenn here from rewiringtinnitus.com. So today I wanted to answer a question that I hear a lot, which is how long will it take me to habituate to the sound of my tinnitus? Almost every single person I've worked with on an individual basis has asked me something along these lines. It's an important question, and unfortunately, the answer varies wildly from person to person, depending on several important factors like how loud it seems, how bothersome or intrusive it is, your current level of emotional suffering, stress, and anxiety, as well as any possible underlying medical conditions that could be exacerbating your tinnitus or even causing it in the first place. The treatment strategy you choose makes a big difference too. So stay with me to the end of this video because I'm going to answer the question. But first, I need to explain a little bit more about what it feels like to habituate and take a closer look at the various stages of relief that you can expect to experience as you go through this process. So, for many tinnitus sufferers, habituation does occur naturally over time, and it can be a long time, but that's not the case for everyone. It's possible to suffer for years with tinnitus with no sign of relief or habituation in sight. Now, the good news is you don't have to just wait and hope for the best. Even if you don't know what's caused your tinnitus, or if you do know what's caused your tinnitus and the cause is untreatable, it's possible to actively retrain your brain to be less bothered by the sound. Now, this typically involves changing the way you react to the sound emotionally by leveraging the principles of neuroplasticity. You see, when tinnitus is bothersome, the brain is perceiving the sound as something dangerous, threatening, or annoying, and that prevents habituation from happening. The problem is that our brains can't tell the difference between real danger and an imagined threat, like tinnitus. So our reaction is the same. We have this stress response, and it never ends because the tinnitus doesn't just go away. But we can give the brain a brand new experience to associate with the sound. And over time, and with repetition, we can stop reacting emotionally and start tuning it out more and more of the time, like we should have been doing all along. Now, I accomplished this with a form of tinnitus-focused meditation, but that's not the only way to habituate. Now, if you want to learn more about what I did to habituate, I've included some links for more information in the video description below. But regardless of what strategy you decide to use, you need to understand that habituation doesn't happen all at once. You won't wake up one day and suddenly find that your tinnitus has stopped bothering you altogether. It's a progression, and it's not a linear progression. Every day will not necessarily be better than the day before. Spikes and fluctuations can and will still occur throughout the entire process. And at times, it can feel like you've taken 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. So as you work to habituate, rather than constantly assessing how loud it seems, a better metric to keep track of is your overall improvement in quality of life. If you're more productive at work, more relaxed at home, sleeping better, and doing more of the things that you enjoy and that you want to do, that's what really matters. So if the overall trend is showing an increase in quality of life, then you know you're on the right track. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the various stages of habituation and what you can expect to experience in the way of relief as you go through the process. Now, we'll start with an example of the worst possible case of suffering. So this would be a person whose tinnitus is extremely loud, extremely bothersome, and causing all kinds of panic and anxiety and emotional chaos. Now, this is a difficult position to be in, and I know that many of you may be experiencing this right now. And in difficult cases of tinnitus like this, you're essentially in a constant state of crisis that affects every single aspect of your day. So for a person suffering this much, the first sign of progress happens when they cross what I like to call the crisis point. Now, in other words, this is when that person has improved to the point at which they are no longer in a constant state of agitation and crisis. You can think of it as the first mile marker on the path to habituation. So once you cross the crisis point, you get to what I consider level 1 of habituation. Now, a person who reaches this point can still hear the sound of their tinnitus, but it stops affecting them so much emotionally and becomes easier to tolerate. Anxiety levels go down, the sound becomes less intrusive more of the time, and you can deal with it more easily as you go about your day. Quality of life improves significantly, but unfortunately spikes are still very challenging to deal with at this stage, and relief is not constant. Now, the next milestone marks a pretty substantial step forward in the process. So at level 2 of habituation, tinnitus becomes much less bothersome, and the brain is able to tune it out most of the time. And this happens automatically. The sound is still there, but it seems much quieter. And as a result, it's so much easier to tolerate. At this point, a person can expect to have way more good days than bad days, and while spikes will still occur, they are not nearly as problematic. Now, most people are content with this level of relief. This accounts for a huge improvement in quality of life. But as you continue on the process, it only gets better. At level 3, your tinnitus will stop bothering you entirely. Your brain will more or less be tuning it out automatically all of the time. And when you do hear it, it won't bother you at all. At this point, if you experience a spike, it is very easily managed. You can prevent the fear and anxiety response and usually get a handle on it before it becomes a problem. And this is what it's like for me. My tinnitus isn't a problem at all for me anymore. And I sort of see this as the highest point you can aspire to achieve, but by many reports, there's another level, even past level 3, which, past what I've achieved. And that would be level 4, where the tinnitus appears to be gone altogether. At this point, the brain theoretically would be effectively filtering it out of existence. Now, I imagine this is as close to a cure as you can possibly get, but it is way less common, at least from what I can tell. So we'll go back to the original question, how long does it take to habituate? Well, again, the answer depends, and a lot of it depends on how much relief you're looking for. I've seen countless people achieve the first levels of habituation with my meditation approach in as little as 2 to 4 weeks. And for most people, again, this is a massive improvement in quality of life. But I've seen it take a lot longer too. In very severe cases of tinnitus, I've seen it take 2 to 3 times as long, with the person working every single day to make the change. The bottom line here is that with most approaches to habituation, it takes time and commitment to make these changes in the brain. Most approaches require a daily practice, and without that discipline, they won't work at all. Now, I've seen this happen too. A person who means well and wants to improve, but can't commit to doing the daily work necessary to cause these changes to happen, and they were not able to habituate. But at the end of the day, it's possible. And with the right approach, it's probably easier than you are thinking it is right now, at least to reach the first levels of habituation. So that's all for me for today. I know this wasn't a perfect answer, but hopefully I've at least inspired you to start the process of habituation one way or another, because relief is much closer than you think. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.